Rain spattered against the broad windowpane, casting dancing silver rivulets over Amara's tear-streaked reflection. She stood motionless in the dim entryway, watching David marshal the last of his belongings into the sleek black Porsche parked beneath the flickering porch light. Each suitcase thud felt like a blow to her heart. "You're just dead weight, Amara," he had snarled moments ago, his voice low and venomous as thunder rolled overhead. The storm rattled the shutters, echoing the fury in his words. With a final slam of the door, his taillights disappeared, swallowed by darkness, leaving her alone in the downpour. Her knees buckled. She fell against the cool marble floor, the chill seeping through her soaked dress. Every sob she released was a confession of a dream now shattered. Memories of their laughter together, sunlit mornings over coffee, late-night promises whispered in candlelit rooms, were washed away by his icy departure. In the hollow silence, she realized David had been right about one thing: without him, she felt worthless. But as slick tears slid down her cheeks, an ember of outrage sparked in her chest. How dare he toss her aside like garbage? Clutching her knees to her chest, Amara closed her eyes and let the rain's rhythm guide her breath. "I am not dead weight," she whispered into the empty room. The words felt foreign on her tongue, yet each repetition strengthened her resolve. She pictured David's smirk as he walked away, the arrogance in his stride, the certainty that she would crumble. He had underestimated the force he had set loose with his cruelty. Somewhere beneath the ache, a fierce flame flared, a promise to herself that she would rise from this storm. A flash of memory pierced her grief. David, months earlier, stood in the same foyer, all charm and swagger. "Trust me," he had said, brushing a stray curl from her forehead as he poured champagne into 2 crystal flutes. "One day I'll take care of us both." She had believed him then, dissolving into his arms as if into safety itself. Now she shuddered at how easily she'd surrendered her dreams to his empty words. Thunder rolled again, more distant this time, as Amara rose to her feet. She peeled off her sodden jacket and spread it carefully over the window seat, insulating it against the chill. In that small, domestic ritual, a simple act of reclaiming her space, she felt her bones straighten. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil in her heart, but unlike the tempest that would soon subside, her resolve would only grow fiercer. She pressed her palm against the window's cool glass and stared at the receding taillights, now mere pinpoints in the rain-swept darkness. "You may think I'm nothing," she breathed, "but I'm still here. And I'm just getting started." With that, she turned away from the foyer that had witnessed her heartbreak, stepping into the still wet night toward an uncertain dawn. The morning sun slanted through dusty blinds, illuminating motes dancing in the stale air. Amara drifted through the silent rooms of the house she once shared with David, each step stirring echoes of laughter and love. The foyer, now emptied of his presence, felt cavernous, a mausoleum of broken promises. She paused at the mantel, her fingertips brushing across a row of framed photographs: vacations in Paris, picnics in endless fields of lavender, candid smiles frozen in happier times. Each image whispered, "This was real." And each whispered, "This is gone." She wandered to the bedroom, where his cologne still lingered, a bittersweet ghost caressing her senses. Amara inhaled sharply, steeling herself against the tears that threatened. On the bedside table lay his half-read book, pages dog-eared and scrawled with his notes. With trembling fingers, she scooped up the volume and tossed it onto the bed, an offering to the ghosts of a life she refused to mourn any longer. She wouldn't let his scent or his scribbles tether her mind to the past. In the corner, half hidden beneath a stack of old gym bags, she spotted the leather journal she'd once filled with dreams. Its cover was soft with age, the clasp worn from countless openings. She sank onto the floor, tugged it free, and flipped through the pages, bullet points of business ideas, sketches of a skincare line inspired by her grandmother's secret recipes, even a crude timeline for launching her own brand. Amara's heart fluttered. These pages had been her lifeline before David claimed she needed him to guide her path. She whispered to herself, "Why did I forget?" The words felt accusatory, but they carried a spark of hope. She pressed a finger to the blank back cover, as if ready to write herself anew. For the first time in months, she envisioned possibilities rather than pitfalls. The journal was a map of the woman she used to be, and was still inside. Setting the journal on her lap, Amara allowed herself a moment of clarity. She would gather those scattered fragments, those ideas dormant in wax pencil, and breathe life back into them. No investor pitches, no glossy presentations. She would start small, using nothing but her hands and heart to build something real, something of her own. Rising, she tucked the journal into her tote bag and strode toward the front door. A shaft of golden light broke through the overcast sky, and for the first time that morning, she smiled. "It's time," she said, and the house, once suffocated by memories, seemed to exhale behind her. Amara's kitchen was a symphony of mismatched bowls, glass vials, and dried herbs spilling across every surface. Lavender sprigs dangled from a makeshift line by the window, shedding their petals onto the counter below. A handwritten sign taped to the cupboard read, "Amara's Pure Care, handmade skincare from the heart." She knelt on a stool, carefully weighing scoops of shea butter into a double boiler. The buttery aroma mingled with the sharper bite of ground rosemary as she stirred, her wooden spoon tracing lazy circles. Her first batch had separated into a greasy mess, the second had been rock hard. But with each failed attempt, Amara refined her technique. She recited the recipe from memory, adjusting ratios and noting observations in the margins of her journal. The kitchen ticked by in the hush of late afternoon, punctuated only by the soft hiss of melting butter and her pen scratching against paper. A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Ngozi, her next-door neighbor, holding a paper bag of fresh mangoes. "I thought you might need a break," Ngozi said with a warm smile. "And something sweet." Amara ushered her in, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. "You're a lifesaver," she said, arranging mango slices on a plate. They sat by the window, watching children play hopscotch on the cracked pavement outside. Ngozi watched Amara's stained apron and tired eyes. "Does it ever feel like you're drowning in all this?" she asked gently. Amara took a bite of mango, its juice sticky on her fingers. "Every day," she admitted. "But I'd rather drown in my own dream than sink into regret." Ngozi reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Then keep swimming," she encouraged. "Because you're meant to soar." Reinvigorated, Amara returned to her lab with renewed determination. She measured the melted shea butter's temperature, added tinctures of essential oils, and whisked vigorously until the mixture thickened into a creamy emulsion. When she dipped her finger in for a final taste test, carefully licking the excess, her eyes widened. It was perfect, silky, light, and redolent of lavender and honey. That evening, by lamplight, she decanted her creation into tiny amber jars, sealing each with a hand-drawn label. As she placed the last jar on the shelf, Amara felt her pulse quicken. This wasn't just a product, it was proof that she could create something beautiful with her own hands. The spark she had been chasing ignited into a blazing flame, one that would not be extinguished. Saturday dawned cool and bright as Amara wheeled a folding table to the local farmer's market. She decorated her booth with lavender bouquets and a chalkboard sign detailing ingredients and price: stress relief face balm, 5,000 Nigerian nairas. A brassy speaker blared reggae from the neighboring food stall, and the aroma of fried dough and grilled plantain hung heavy in the air. Amara arranged her jars in neat rows, her heart beating a drumroll of anticipation. Hours passed. Shoppers flocked past her booth, lured by fresh produce and live drummers, but none stopped to sample her balm. She offered dozens of testers, tiny dabs on forearms, gentle massages on wrists, but each visitor gave a polite smile, then moved on. By midday, her cash box held a single 1,000 Nigerian nairas bill. She sank onto her folding chair, the early breeze doing little to lift her spirits. Just then, a young mother with tired eyes approached, plucking a jar from the display. "How much is this again?" she asked, holding a wiggling toddler in one arm. Amara forced a bright smile. 5,000 naira, she replied. The woman's face registered disbelief. "That's more than my groceries," she said, setting the jar back. "Good luck, though." With a sympathetic nod, she shuffled away, toddler tugging at her skirt. Amara closed her eyes and inhaled the lavender-tinged air, steadying herself. She unpacked a small mirror and applied a trace of balm to her own cheek, rubbing it in until her skin glowed. A handful of curious onlookers paused, intrigued by her confidence. One asked where she'd learned to make it, another marveled at the scent. By the time the market closed, she'd sold 10 jars, enough to recoup half her costs. Packing up, Amara smiled despite the sting of unmet expectations. She counted her cash slowly. 10 sales, she whispered. A start. Those 10 women, each clutching her bomb as if it were a talisman, represented the first ripples in what she knew would become a tide. She folded her table, hoisted her wares onto her shoulder, and walked home with her chin held high. Back in her tiny living room that evening, Amara powered up her laptop, its screen illuminating her determined face. She'd watched tutorials on photography and graphic design until her eyes blurred. Now she opened a free social media account to chronicle her journey. The cursor blinked on a blank post. She hesitated, exposing vulnerability to strangers felt risky, but then typed a raw confession. Today I sold 10 jars of balm. 10 brave women believed in me. Tomorrow, I promise to believe in myself. She hit post and held her breath. Within minutes, likes trickled in, first a handful, then dozens. Comments appeared. Your story is so inspiring, I need this balm. Where can I buy? Keep going, Queen. Amara's chest swelled. Even a single message from a stranger carried more weight than a market full of indifference. Over the next few days, she posted videos showing her mixing ingredients, laughing at her early mishaps, and offering skincare tips. She answered every comment with gratitude, building genuine connections. Her follower count inched upward, 50, 100, 200. Each new follower was a victory in itself, a signal that her voice reached beyond her cramped kitchen. One evening, as she closed her laptop, her phone pinged with a new message. It was from a local blogger. Saw your post, love your mission. I'd like to feature you on my platform. Let's collaborate. Amara stared at the screen, disbelief and excitement warring in her expression. A collaboration, she whispered. It sounded like a dream, but she'd learned that dreams began where comfort ended. She sank back onto the couch, her journal open on the coffee table. With a fountain pen, she mapped out ideas for the blog feature, photos, talking points, free samples to send. Each bullet point was a brick laid in the foundation of her burgeoning empire. She closed the journal, her heart pounding with anticipation and hope. As night settled outside, Amara switched off the lights and stood by the window once more. The street lamp cast a warm halo on her reflection. She traced the contours of her face, now glowing with newfound confidence. Tomorrow, she vowed, I'll show them why David was wrong. And in that quiet promise, a glimmer of her destiny shone bright enough to pierce any darkness. __. The glow of Amara's phone screen was the only light in her tiny kitchen when she hit record. Flour bags served as makeshift tripods, and the whir of her mixer provided a rhythmic backdrop. She steadied herself and pressed go live, her heart hammering like a drum in her ears. Hey, everyone, she began, voice trembling but determined. I'm Amara, and this is my story. She paused to let her audience settle in. 6 months ago, I lost everything. But tonight, I want to share 3 things I learned. Heartbreak can be fuel, failure can be a teacher, and you, yes, you, are stronger than you believe. She held up a jar of her signature lavender honey balm. This little jar right here represents more than skincare. It's late nights and early mornings, second chances, and scraped knee mistakes. If you're watching this because you've ever felt like you're worth nothing without someone else, stick around. Over the next 10 minutes, Amara spoke candidly about David's betrayal, the makeshift lab in her kitchen, the farmer's market humiliation, and the small victories on social media. She laughed at her own flubs, wiped away tears on camera, and encouraged viewers to chase their dreams no matter the odds. Then, with a deep breath, she ended the live stream. She went to bed certain she'd wake to silence. Instead, at dawn, her phone buzzed incessantly. Notifications, in the hundreds, filled her screen. Followers had tripled overnight. Comments poured in, you gave me chills, I needed this, I'm buying a jar right now. The video had gone viral. By mid-morning, Amara's website groaned under the traffic, and her payment gateway crashed. She scrambled to reboot the server, hands shaking with adrenaline. Volunteer fans tweeted her story, beauty bloggers reposted the clip, and news sites picked up the angle. Homemaker's homemade bomb becomes overnight sensation. That afternoon, her kitchen resembled a war zone of orders. She enlisted Ndozi to help package and ship, and together they laughed in disbelief as boxes piled high in the living room. Each shipment sticker read, "Made with love by Amara," a mantra she repeated like a prayer. Before bed, exhausted but exhilarated, Amara stared at the ceiling. The breakthrough felt surreal, like waking from a dream. But she was wide awake now, and more than ready for whatever came next. Word spread quickly through the beauty blogger grapevine. By Monday morning, Amara's inbox bulged with collaboration requests. She sipped her coffee, scanning messages from influencers with millions of followers, beauty editors at glossy magazines, and even local TV shows clamoring for interviews. The first solid offer came from Tasha Omoli, a respected skincare guru whose 700,000-strong Instagram audience swore by her product reviews. Tasha proposed a joint tutorial. Amara would demonstrate her bomb's application, and Tasha would compare it to high-end brands. Amara felt equal parts honored and terrified. She prepared meticulously, decking the set with fresh lavender, bending over her best lighting angles, and practicing her talking points. When the camera rolled, Tasha's warm presence put her at ease. "Amara," Tasha said, holding up the jar, "your story is incredible. I've tested hundreds of products, and I can honestly say this bomb is a game changer." She applied a dab to her cheekbone and smiled. Instant glow. Views soared into the millions within hours. Amara watched the numbers climb in real time, disbelief turning to elation. But success came with a cost. Whispers began on dark forums that her bomb contained cheap fillers. One anonymous post claimed she'd bribed testers. Another accused her of overcharging. That night, Amara found a barrage of hateful comments under her latest posts. "Faker. This is a scam. I just wasted 5,000 Nigerian nairas." Her heart sank, but she refused to retreat. She drafted a clear, transparent statement detailing her ingredients and manufacturing process, shared test results from an independent lab, and opened a Q&A livestream to answer every question honestly. The next day, supporters rallied around her, drowning out the naysayers with messages of solidarity. Orders continued to flow. But in the back of her mind, Amara knew this was only the opening skirmish. If she wanted her fledgling empire to survive, she'd need more than good products, she'd need unwavering integrity. Amara woke before dawn to an email subject line she never expected: collaboration inquiry. She opened it with trembling fingers. The sender was Sophia Rivers, the influencer who'd publicly courted David after their breakup. Sophia's message was polite on the surface, complimenting Amara's success and proposing a joint campaign, but the subtext read like a challenge. Suspicion spurred Amara to investigate. She scrolled through Sophia's feed, noticing subtle digs, captions like "Not every woman can stand on her own 2 feet" tagged alongside Amara's branding images. Comments from Sophia's followers questioned whether Amara's overnight success was genuine. Heart-pounding, Amara traced a link from Sophia's blog to a site hosting leaked emails. There, she discovered internal communications revealing that Sophia had hired a digital mercenary firm to flood Amara's posts with negative reviews and fake testimonials. The plan: discredit Amara before her brand could truly establish credibility. Anger flared hotter than any betrayal Amara had ever known. She tapped out a response to Sophia. "You can try to sabotage me, Sophia, but your lies will die in the light of truth. I accept your collaboration, on these terms, a public, live interview where we address the allegations head-on. No editing, no filters. Just us and the truth." She hit send without hesitation. The following 48 hours were a whirlwind. Sophia accepted, her PR team scrambling to spin the announcement as a gesture of goodwill. Meanwhile, Amara's supporters rallied, demanding transparency and fairness. All eyes were on the impending showdown. 2 days later, Amara sat backstage at a local TV studio, twins of emotions swirling in her gut, anticipation, dread, and an unlikely joy. A production assistant handed her a cup of ginger tea. "Showtime in 5, she said. Just then, Amara felt her stomach lurch. She closed her eyes and leaned against the set wall. The assistants exchanged concerned glances. She forced her breathing to slow. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and she braced herself for panic. A soft voice broke through her haze. "Amara?" It was Ngozi, clutching a small, lavender-scented sachet. "Open this." Amara peeled the ribbon off and inhaled deeply. The familiar, calming aroma grounded her. She looked up, surprised. Ngozi's eyes were moist with unshed tears. "I have something else for you," she whispered, handing over a glossy ultrasound photo. Amara blinked, confusion flooding her. "But I'm not." "Congratulations," Ngozi said, smiling. "I know you didn't expect company on this journey, but," her voice trembled. "You're going to be a mother. Of twins." Amara stared at the ultrasound, heart pounding. She sank to her knees, clutching the image to her chest. All the stress, the sabotage, the looming confrontation, everything receded in that moment. She was creating life. Twins. Her legacy. Time blurred as Ngozi helped her to her feet and guided her to a quiet corner. Amara's tears flowed freely, tears of disbelief, joy, and overwhelming hope. The news electrified her spirit. Whatever happened on set moments from now, she carried new life within her. When the assistant called Amara, 5 minutes, she rose with renewed grace. Anchored by her miracle, she felt invincible. The studio lights blazed as Amara and Sophia took their seats on the couch. The host, renowned for ruthless interviews, introduced the segment. Today, 2 beauty moguls face off, one on the rise, one at the height of controversy. The audience hushed. Sophia offered a cool smile. "Thank you for having us." Amara nodded, scanning the camera lenses. She felt the twins' kick, a gentle reminder of what truly mattered. The host dove in. "Sophia, whispers spread that you orchestrated an online attack against Amara. Care to explain?" Sophia's composure flickered. "I never meant harm. I saw a competitor getting undue attention and panicked." Her voice cracked. "Amara," the host turned, "how do you respond?" Amara placed a hand on her swelling abdomen. "Truth is the best weapon," she said softly. "I chose transparency. I challenged Sophia to this live forum because I knew the facts would speak for themselves." When the host asked Sophia for proof of her innocence, Sophia faltered. The host produced an email thread, Sophia's own words outlining the sabotage strategy. Sophia gasped, the audience gasped. Amara rose. "I hope this is a lesson to anyone who thinks destroying another's dreams is a shortcut to success," she said, voice steady. She revealed the ultrasound photo to the cameras. "I have something far more precious than 1,000,000 followers." Cut to commercial, and in the wings, Amara caught her ex's name flashing on her phone screen, David Carter. He'd sent a message, "Amara, we need to talk. Call me." She stared at the name, heart pounding. The man who said she was nothing now needed something from her. She slipped the phone into her clutch. Later, she whispered to herself, turning away with quiet confidence. The next chapter of her life, motherhood, empire, and finally, closure, awaited. David's text arrived on a Sunday afternoon, an almost affectionate "Hey, Amara. It's been a while. Can we meet? I have a proposal." Amara stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over call. Memories of his smooth promises, his seductive confidence, sputtered to life. Yet beneath the anger lay a curiosity, what could he possibly want now? By Tuesday, they agreed to meet at Le Jardin, a quaint French café boasting ivy-clad walls and finger sandwiches. Amara arrived in a tailored blazer, her twins safe with Ngozi. She spotted David immediately, perched at an outdoor table, fiddling with a silver pen, his expensive watch glinting in the afternoon sun. He looked uncertain. "Amara," he greeted, voice softer than she remembered. He rose to tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear, an intimate gesture she'd once melted for. She stepped back. "Save it," she said coolly, sliding into the chair opposite him. "What do you want?" David took a breath. "My startup's bleeding cash," he admitted, avoiding her gaze. "I need a lifeline, and I know you've become a powerhouse in beauty. I want to partner with you." He slid a well-worn business plan across the table. "Your distribution, my platform. We could dominate the market." Amara studied him. The same man who'd called her deadweight now needed her to save him. She sipped her sparkling water, letting the bubbles settle her nerves. "Why should I help you?" she asked, voice deceptively gentle. His eyes flickered with wounded pride. "Because I'm offering you equity. Because I respect what you've built. Because you deserve more than I ever gave you." She leaned in, voice low. "Respect is earned, David. And right now, you owe me more than words." She stood, gathering the napkin he'd left crumpled. "I'll take the plan under consideration. But don't mistake my silence for acceptance." As she walked away, David watched her retreating form, realizing too late that he'd walked into the lioness's den, on her terms. Amara convened a meeting with her small yet fiercely loyal team, Ngozi, her logistics wizard, and F, her digital strategist. In her makeshift boardroom, the living room couch, she spread David's partnership proposal alongside her own counteroffer. "We'll let him think he's in control," she explained, eyes alight. "Then we'll reveal his company's Achilles heel." F tapped away at his laptop. "I've drafted a press release announcing our strategic collaboration, without naming names. That will send his investors rushing to buy shares on rumors alone." He typed in details of a major launch set for 2 weeks hence. "By then, he'll be playing catch-up." Ngozi nodded. "And I've arranged a high-profile demo at Paris Fashion Week. We'll feature our new Twins Glow line, dedicated to your children. The buzz will be too big for his fledgling brand to match." Amara smiled, the corners of her lips curving with anticipation. "Good. Let him bask in false glory. Then we strike." She raised her mug. "To revenge that tastes sweeter than any balm." They clinked cups, sealing the pact. Amara's heart thrummed with purpose, no more passive forgiveness, no more hidden hurt. This time, she held all the cards. The press release went out at dawn. Headlines blazed, beauty mogul Amara joins forces with tech startup for revolutionary skincare tech synergy. Social media exploded. David, perched before his investors in a glass boardroom downtown, fielded calls as his company's stock shot up by 40%. He beamed, pressing the release into colleagues' hands. "See? I told you partnering with Amara would skyrocket us." Investors nodded, scribbling enthusiastic notes. His pride swelled as articles lauded his business acumen and keen eye for talent. Meanwhile, Amara orchestrated Paris Fashion Week's after-party event. Under soft floodlights and gilded arches, models glided across the runway, each draped in fabric bearing Amara's logo. Cameras flashed as attendees, editors, celebrities, buyers, admired the Twins Glow serum. Within hours, pre-orders for the new line smashed all records. Back in Lagos, Amara watched the feed from her hotel suite, twins nestled beside her. The world was witnessing her empire's rise. But even as she savored the victory, a pang of pity for David surfaced. He was unknowingly fueling the very brand that would burn him. On the eve of the partnership meeting, David strutted into Amara's headquarters, a sleek office space she'd recently leased. He arrived with confident swagger, offering her hand. "Here we are," he declared, ready to make history. Amara rose gracefully, extending a single finger for a handshake. He gripped it firmly, then froze. She leaned in, voice measured. David, thank you for believing in me. She paused, letting the tension mount. But I'm afraid I must decline. She handed him an exclusive contract, one granting distribution rights to a global luxury conglomerate she'd negotiated with the previous week. David's jaw dropped. But, our deal, he sputtered. She offered a serene smile. Your investors have enjoyed the rise. Now they must face the fall. In that moment, the ticker outside plummeted as news of the true partnership spread, Amara and the luxury brand, not David. His company's stock nosedived by 60%, panic erupting in trading floors worldwide. David slumped into the leather chair, eyes wide in disbelief. Amara turned away, voice cold as a winter breeze. Good luck picking up the pieces. 2 years later, Amara stood on a dais in New York's Times Square, her face illuminated on giant digital billboards. Below, a crowd of thousands cheered as she unveiled the newest addition to her product line, Legacy Luxe, a skincare regimen co-created with her twins, now 2 years old and toddling at her side. Her keynote speech wove through threads of resilience, motherhood, and vision. When life stripped me down to nothing, she told the audience, I discovered that true wealth is self-belief. I built this empire one small jar at a time, fueled by heartbreak and hope. She raised her twins, their giggles echoing across the plaza. And these two remind me daily that the future is ours to shape. Backstage, Ngozi and F scanned orders flooding in from Tokyo to Johannesburg. Factories that once churned out 500 jars a month now operated around the clock to meet global demand. Amara's team hovered over blueprints for a new flagship boutique in Dubai. That night, Amara returned home to her penthouse overlooking the city skyline. She tucked the twins into bed, their tiny hands clutching plush bear-shaped balm jars. As she kissed each forehead, she whispered, "You are my legacy." Standing alone on her balcony, she raised a glass of champagne to the moonlit sky. The woman who'd knelt in sorrow in a rain-drenched foyer had become a queen in a kingdom of her own making. And as the champagne sparkled, so did the promise that no force on earth, no betrayal, no sabotage, could ever dim her light again. The grand chandelier in the ballroom trembled with the murmur of luxury as Amara glided across the marble floor, twins nestled against her hip in a custom-designed carrier. She wore a midnight blue gown that whispered of confidence, her hair pulled into an elegant chignon. Cameras flashed when she entered, the queen returning to claim her throne. Across the room, David leaned against a gilded pillar, his designer tuxedo ill-fitting on his now gaunt frame. His eyes widened when he saw her, the woman he'd once discarded now orbited by admirers, her laughter like music. Emboldened, he stepped forward, weaving through clusters of guests. "Amara," he whispered, voice cracking. The twins stirred in her arms, their curious eyes scanning the crowd. She offered a polite nod and set them down on a plush chaise provided by her event team. David took a deep breath. She cut him off gently. "David, save it." Her tone was soft, yet steely. "I've moved on." He lifted his chin, pain flickering in his gaze. "I see that." He gestured to her empire in miniature, the products on every table, the billboards on the plaza outside. "And I respect it." For a moment, they simply regarded each other, two people shaped by the same storm, now standing on opposite sides of the world he left behind. Then Amara smiled, a small, triumphant curve of her lips. "Enjoy the gala," she said. "I have a flight in the morning." He watched her drift away, the echo of her footsteps like the final note of a symphony he no longer conducted. Later that evening, Amara slipped into a private lounge overlooking the city lights. She cradled one twin on her lap and rocked the other in her arms, eyes on the skyline. A soft chime announced an incoming message. It was from David. The text read simply, "Can we talk? Just one last time." She paused before typing back, "Make it count." He responded with a location, a quiet rooftop bar in her hotel. Curiosity pricked her, but she was in control. She arrived to find him leaning on the railing, city lights reflecting in his weary eyes. "Thank you for coming," he began. "I owe you everything, my fall, my awakening." He looked down at her twins, now asleep in her arms. They're beautiful. I told you once, you taught me how to fly, Amara replied, voice soft. What's your test? He swallowed. I'm back on my feet. I want to invest in your next venture. No strings, just support. He extended an envelope heavy with a check. Amara considered him, the man who broke and rebuilt her. If you truly believe in me, she said, then give this back. She handed him the envelope. Your lesson wasn't money, David. It was humility. I'm not here to take handouts. He stared at the envelope as if it burned, then folded it and tucked it into his pocket. In that moment, he knew she had passed her final test. The marquee outside the Grand Convention Center read, Amara's Decade of Beauty, a celebration. Red carpets unfurled beneath a golden archway as Amara arrived hand in hand with her twins, now 4 years old and brimming with confidence. Photographers clamored for smiles, fans waved homemade signs. Inside, a towering exhibit chronicled her journey, a battered leather journal, the first farmer's market booth, viral video screenshots, press clippings, and finally, the gleaming twin serum bottles. Attendees murmured in awe at the evolution from kitchen experiment to global powerhouse. On stage, Amara lifted the microphone. The crowd hushed. 10 years ago, I knelt in a rain-soaked foyer, convinced I was worthless, she began, voice steady. She gestured toward the exhibit. Today, I stand before you because I dared to dream beyond a breakup, beyond a betrayal. These 2-inch, she kissed each twin's cheek, are my legacy. Tears glistened in the audience as she unveiled a scholarship fund for single mothers pursuing entrepreneurship, seeded with proceeds from her latest line. The twins, beaming, threw confetti in the air, their laughter echoing through the hall. As dusk fell, fireworks erupted over the city skyline, each burst a symbol of transformation. Amara watched, her heart full. She had built more than a brand, she had created opportunity, inspiration, and hope for countless others. In the pre-dawn hush of the private jet, Amara wrapped a soft blanket around her sleeping twins. The engines hummed as the jet glided over familiar landscapes, Legos fading into the horizon. She pressed her forehead against their tiny heads, whispering, "Thank you, David. Without you, I never would have learned to fly." A flight attendant appeared with champagne. Amara accepted a flute and gazed out at the awakening sky. Memories of that stormy night flooded back, yet instead of grief, she felt gratitude for the crucible that forged her. Each sip of bubbly tasted like victory. Below, the city lights sparkled like fallen stars, a reminder of where her journey began. She raised her glass in a silent toast to every setback that propelled her forward. Her laughter, soft and genuine, mingled with the jet's lullaby. As the sun broke the horizon, painting the cabin in rose and gold, Amara closed her eyes and allowed herself a moment of pure joy. The world lay at her feet, and for the first time, she reveled in the sweet taste of her last laugh. Back in his bare apartment living room, David slumped on a threadbare couch, laptop perched on his knees. The screen displayed an interview clip, Amara speaking at the convention center, her twins dancing beside her. His reflection rippled across the glass monitor, haunted eyes locked on her radiant image. He reached out, fingers trembling as he tried to silence the video. But no matter how many times he clicked pause, her words reverberated in his mind, "Without you, I became unstoppable." He let out a hollow laugh, bitter, regretful. On the coffee table lay investment brochures for his failed startup, past due notices, and a single, uncashed check with Amara's name scrawled on it. Regret curled in his chest like a poison. He closed his eyes and saw her at every milestone, her first sale, her viral moment, her twins' first steps. In each memory, he glimpsed the force he had unleashed when he walked away. At dawn, he typed one final message to Amara, "Congratulations." Then he shut off his phone and sat in the silence, the echo of her triumph ringing louder than any apology ever could. The end.